Mrs. Morrison, please sign here. The intake nurse at Riverside Psychiatric Facility pushed a clipboard across the cold metal desk, her smile rehearsed and empty. Lily stared at the document, her hands trembling. Admission form. Involuntary commitment. Danger to self and others. There's been a mistake, Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't belong here. My husband, he did this. He forged my signature. The nurse's expression didn't change. She'd probably heard similar protests 1,000 times before. Your husband provided all the necessary documentation, Mrs. Morrison. Court-ordered psychiatric evaluation. Doctor's recommendation. Everything is in order. Everything was in order. That was the problem. Her husband, Marcus Morrison, had been planning this for months, maybe years. And Lily had been too blind, too trusting, too stupidly in love to see it coming. My name is Lily Morrison. I'm 32 years old. 3 days ago, I inherited $8 million from my grandmother's estate. 2 days ago, my husband told me he loved me. Yesterday, he had me committed to a psychiatric institution against my will so he could steal everything I own. The facility smelled like bleach and desperation. White walls. Locked doors. Screaming somewhere down a distant hallway. This was supposed to be a luxury private treatment center. According to the brochure Marcus had shown her weeks ago when he first suggested she get some help for her anxiety. Anxiety. That's what he called it. That's what he told her family, her friends, the doctors. Lily's been struggling, he'd said with that concerned husband face he'd perfected. Panic attacks, paranoid delusions. She thinks I'm trying to hurt her. And they'd believed him. Every single one of them. The truth? Lily didn't have anxiety. She had suspicion. And suspicion, as it turned out, was completely justified. It started 6 weeks ago when Lily noticed charges on their joint credit card. Small things at first dinner at an expensive restaurant she'd never been to. Hotel rooms booked during his supposed business trips. Jewelry purchases she never received. When she'd asked Marcus about it, he'd kissed her forehead and said, "Baby, you're working yourself up over nothing. Those are client dinners. You know how demanding my work is." Marcus was a financial advisor. Or so he claimed. Lily was starting to wonder if anything he'd ever told her was true. Then came the strange phone calls. Marcus taking his cell into the bathroom, closing the door, speaking in hushed tones. The late nights at the office that stretched into early mornings. The new cologne. The way he'd started going to the gym obsessively, buying expensive suits, talking about upgrading their lifestyle. Lily had told herself she was imagining things. Marriage required trust, right? You couldn't build a life with someone if you questioned every little inconsistency. But then her grandmother died. And everything changed. Eleanor Whitmore had been 93 years old, sharp as a knife until her last breath, and she'd left her entire estate to Lily. $8 million in investments, property, and cash. The will was ironclad. Every penny went to Lily. With one condition. Marcus couldn't touch it unless Lily was deemed mentally incompetent. Lily remembered the reading of the will. Marcus had sat beside her, holding her hand, playing the supportive husband. But his grip had been too tight. His jaw had been clenched. And when the lawyer read that specific clause about mental incompetence, Lily had felt Marcus's fingers dig into her palm hard enough to bruise. That night, he'd been unusually affectionate. "I'm so proud of you, baby," he'd whispered. "Your grandmother knew you'd handle this money responsibly. We're going to build an amazing future together. He'd said we, but the money wasn't it was Lily's. Only Lily's. Looking back now, locked in the psychiatric facility with her phone confiscated and her freedom stripped away, Lily could see the whole thing clearly. The gaslighting had started immediately after the will reading. "Lily, did you take your medication today? You seem off." She wasn't on medication. "Lily, you're being paranoid again. I'm worried about you." She wasn't paranoid. She was paying attention. "Lily, maybe you should talk to someone. A professional. This inheritance is clearly causing you stress." The inheritance wasn't causing stress. Marcus was. But he'd been so convincing, so caring, so concerned. He'd even scheduled therapy appointments for her, found a psychiatrist who specialized in sudden wealth syndrome and financial anxiety. Dr. Richard Chen. Lily had met with him twice. Both times, Marcus had insisted on sitting in the room. For support, he'd said. Dr. Chen had asked gentle questions. How was Lily sleeping? Any racing thoughts? Feelings of distrust toward loved ones, paranoia, and Marcus had answered for her. She's been having terrible nightmares. She wakes up screaming. She's convinced someone's trying to hurt her. Lies. All lies. But Dr. Chen had written it all down. And apparently, Dr. Chen's notes had been enough to get Lily committed. The intake nurse was staring at her now, waiting. Mrs. Morrison, I need you to sign the form. And if I don't? Lily asked. Then we'll proceed without your signature. You're here under court order. Whether you cooperate or not doesn't change your legal status. Court order. Marcus had gotten a court order, which meant he'd presented fabricated evidence that Lily was a danger to herself. Lily's hand moved to her wrist instinctively, touching the barely healed scar there. She'd cut herself 2 weeks ago while cooking dinner. A stupid accident with a kitchen knife. She'd needed 4 stitches. Marcus had taken photos. Had he told the court she'd done it on purpose? That she was suicidal? The nurse sighed, clearly losing patience. Let me be clear, Mrs. Morrison. You're going to be evaluated by our staff psychiatrist. Depending on that evaluation, you could be here for 72 hours, or you could be here for months. How you behave during your stay will determine how quickly you leave. I suggest you cooperate. Months. Lily's daughter Emma was 3 years old. 3. She couldn't be away from her baby for months. Where's my daughter? Lily's voice cracked. I need to see Emma. Where is she? Your husband has full temporary custody, the nurse said, already standing, already moving toward the door. He felt it would be too traumatic for your daughter to visit while you unwell. Full custody. Of course he did. An orderly appeared, a massive man with dead eyes and latex gloves. This way, Mrs. Morrison. As Lily was led down the hallway toward her room, her cell, she caught a glimpse of herself in a reflective surface. She looked exactly like what Marcus needed her to look like. Hair unwashed. Dark circles under her eyes. Wild expression. The perfect image of a woman losing her mind. But Lily wasn't losing her mind. She was losing her freedom, her daughter, and $8 million to a man who'd promised to love her forever. The room was small. A bed bolted to the floor. A toilet. A window with bars. The orderly pointed to a folded hospital gown on the bed. Change into this. Someone will be with you shortly for your evaluation. The door locked behind him with a metallic click that echoed in Lily's chest. She sat on the edge of the bed, her mind racing. Marcus had thought of everything. The forged signatures. The fake medical reports. The court order. The custody arrangement. He'd built a perfect cage, and Lily had walked right into it. But as she sat there in that locked room, staring at those barred windows, something shifted inside her. The fear didn't disappear, but it transformed into something colder. Something sharper. Marcus had made one crucial mistake. He'd assumed Lily would break. He'd assumed she'd give up, sign over power of attorney, let him drain her inheritance while she rotted in this place. He didn't know that Lily's grandmother hadn't just left her money. She'd left her wisdom. And Eleanor Whitmore's favorite piece of advice had been simple. Never let anyone see you coming until it's too late for them to run. Lily stood up, walked to the small mirror above the sink, and studied her reflection. She needed to play this smart, cooperate, seem compliant, make them think Marcus was right about her. And while she played the perfect patient, she'd find a way to prove the truth. Because somewhere in this facility, there had to be someone who'd listen, someone who'd see through Marcus's lies. Lily didn't know it yet, but that someone was already watching her. And what was about to unfold would destroy Marcus Morrison in ways he never saw coming. If this story is making your blood boil as much as it's making mine, don't forget to subscribe. You'll want to see how this lying husband gets exactly what he deserves. The psychiatric evaluation happened 3 hours after Lily arrived. Dr. Amanda Foster entered the room with a tablet and the same tired expression every staff member seemed to wear like a uniform. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to ask you some questions. Please answer honestly." "Honest? What a joke. Do you know why you're here?" Lily kept her voice calm, measured. "My husband believes I need help." "And do you believe you need help?" This was the trap. If Lily said no, she was in denial. If she said yes, she was admitting to mental illness. Either way, Marcus won. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding," Lily said carefully. "But I'm willing to cooperate with treatment." Dr. Foster made a note. "Your husband mentioned you've been experiencing paranoid delusions. Specifically, that you believe he's trying to harm you financially. Is it paranoid if it's true?" The words slipped out before Lily could stop them. Another note. Damn it. The evaluation continued for 45 minutes. Sleep patterns, eating habits, family history of mental illness. Every question designed to build a case against her. When it was over, Dr. Foster stood. "We'll be keeping you for observation. Minimum 72 hours, possibly longer depending on your progress." Progress. They meant compliance. After Dr. Foster left, Lily was allowed to shower and change into standard issue clothing, gray sweatpants and a white t-shirt that smelled like industrial detergent. Her jewelry had been confiscated for safety reasons. Her phone was locked away. She had no contact with the outside world. Marcus had isolated her perfectly. The first full day at Riverside passed in a blur of scheduled activities. Group therapy where broken people shared broken stories. Mealtimes in a cafeteria that served food that tasted like cardboard. Medication dispensary where nurses watched patients swallow pills designed to make them quiet, compliant, manageable. Lily had refused the medication. "I'd like to speak with my lawyer before agreeing to any pharmaceutical treatment." The nurse had smiled that same empty smile. "Your husband has medical power of attorney, Mrs. Morrison. He's already approved your treatment plan." Of course he had. On the second day, Marcus came to visit. He walked into the visitation room looking like the picture of a concerned husband. Expensive suit, perfectly styled hair, that practiced expression of worry mixed with love. He even brought flowers, pink roses, Lily's supposed favorite. She told him 100 times she preferred sunflowers. "Baby." He reached for her hand across the table. Lily pulled away. His jaw tightened for just a fraction of a second before the mask slipped back into place. "I know you're angry with me. I know you don't understand why I had to do this. But Lily, you're sick. You need help." "I'm not sick, Marcus. The doctors disagree." Dr. Chun's report was very concerning. The paranoia, the accusatory behavior, He paused, lowering his voice to a whisper. "The suicide attempt. I cut myself cooking. It was an accident. Is that what you remember?" His tone was so gentle, so patronizing. "Lily, your mind is playing tricks on you. You stood at the kitchen counter with that knife for 20 minutes. I found you crying, saying you couldn't do this anymore. I had to wrestle the knife away from you. Lies. Every single word was a lie. But who would believe her? A woman committed to a psychiatric facility, or her respectable husband with doctor's reports and court orders backing him up." Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping lower. "I've spoken with your grandmother's estate attorney. Given your current situation, I'm going to need you to sign some documents. Just temporary measures to make sure the estate is properly managed while you're getting treatment." There it was. The real reason for the visit. "What kind of documents?" Lily asked, even though she already knew. "Power of attorney, just until you're well again. Someone needs to handle your finances, manage the properties. Make sure everything stays in order." "You mean steal my inheritance?" Marcus's expression hardened. The mask cracked just enough for Lily to see what was underneath cold calculation and barely contained rage. "Careful, Lily." His voice was ice. "You're already in a psychiatric facility. If you continue making wild accusations, if you refuse to cooperate with treatment, the doctors might decide you need a longer stay. Much longer. And Emma ... double quotes." He paused, letting the name hang in the air like a threat. "Emma needs stability. She needs a parent who's present and capable. Lily's blood turned cold. You can't take my daughter from me. I already have. He smiled. Temporary custody, remember? But it could become permanent if the court decides you're unfit. Think about that before you make this difficult. He stood, adjusted his tie, picked up the flowers she hadn't touched. I'll be back tomorrow with the papers. I suggest you sign them. For Emma's sake. After he left, Lily sat in that visitation room shaking with rage so intense, she thought she might actually lose her mind for real. But she didn't, because 20 minutes later someone sat down across from her. That was quite a performance. Lily looked up. A woman in her mid-50s, dark hair pulled into a neat bun, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore hospital staff identification, but something about her felt different from the others. Excuse me? Your husband, the woman clarified. I've worked in psychiatric care for 28 years. I know the difference between a concerned family member and a manipulative bastard covering his tracks. Lily's heart started pounding. Who are you? Dr. Sarah Chin. No relation to the doctor. Chen who evaluated you. Thank God. I'm the night shift psychiatrist. She glanced around the empty room, then back at Lily. I reviewed your file. Something doesn't add up. What do you mean? The intake documents have inconsistencies. Your signature on the admission consent form doesn't match your signature on the insurance paperwork. The timeline of your supposed suicide attempt doesn't align with the medical records from the year. And your husband's statement to the court contains details about your behavior that directly contradict the observations from the intake nurse. Lily felt hope flare in her chest for the first time in days. He forged my signature. He lied to get me committed. This whole thing is fraud. Dr. Chun studied her carefully. Can you prove it? And there was the problem. Lily had suspicions, observations, gut feelings. But proof? Marcus had been too careful. I have bank statements showing suspicious charges, Lily said quickly. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, jewelry I never received. My phone has text messages, call logs. Your phone that's currently locked in the facility safe, inaccessible without administrative approval, which your husband controls through his medical power of attorney. The hope died as quickly as it had sparked. Dr. Chen leaned back in her chair. Here's what I can do. I can order an independent psychiatric evaluation. Second opinion. It'll take a few days to arrange, but if that evaluation contradicts Dr. Foster's assessment, we might have grounds to challenge your commitment. And if it doesn't, then you'll be here for as long as your husband wants you here. Dr. Chen stood. In the meantime, be a model patient. Take your medication. The medication makes me foggy. I can't think clearly. Then pretend to take it and hide the pills under your tongue. Spit them out later, but make them think you're complying. Make them think you're improving. The more cooperative you seem, the harder it will be for your husband to justify keeping you here. She started to walk away, then paused. One more thing. Your husband requested that you be placed on restricted communication. No phone calls, no internet access, no visitors except family. He said it was for your own good, to avoid triggering your paranoia. Of course he did. Marcus was making sure Lily couldn't reach out to anyone who might help her. How long can he keep me cut off like this? As long as he's your legal medical proxy? Dr. Chun's expression was grim. Indefinitely. That night, lying in her locked room, Lily stared at the ceiling and thought about Emma. Her baby girl with the curly blonde hair and the gap-toothed smile. Did Emma ask about her? Did Marcus tell her that Mommy was sick? Did he let her cry herself to sleep wondering when Mommy was coming home? The thought of Emma in that house alone with Marcus made Lily's stomach twist. Because Marcus had never wanted to be a father. When Lily got pregnant, he'd pushed for abortion. We're not ready, he'd said. This isn't the right time, but Lily had wanted that baby more than anything. And eventually, Marcus had agreed. Or so she thought. Looking back now, Lily wondered if he'd only accepted the pregnancy because he'd already been planning his long game. A child would tie Lily to him, make her less likely to leave, give him leverage. And Emma had been leveraged from the moment she was born. Marcus had never changed a diaper. Never gotten up from midnight feedings. Never read bedtime stories or kissed scraped knees. He'd been an absent father at best, an annoyed inconvenience at worst. But now, suddenly, he had full custody. Now, suddenly, he was Emma's primary caregiver. The thought made Lily sick. She rolled over, her mind racing through possibilities. Dr. Chen seemed willing to help, but everything moved so slowly in the medical system. Independent evaluations took time. Court appeals took longer. And every day Lily stayed locked in this place was another day. Marcus had access to her money and control of her daughter. Lily needed leverage. She needed proof. She needed something that would blow Marcus's carefully constructed story apart. And then she remembered. Her grandmother's safety deposit box. Eleanor Whitmore had mentioned it in passing a few months before she died. There are documents there, Lily. Important things. If anything ever happens to me, you'll need to access them. Lily had never followed up. Never asked what documents. Never got the key. But Eleanor had been meticulous about record keeping. If there was proof of the estate terms, backup copies of the will, anything that could establish Lily's legal rights beyond Marcus's reach. The problem was the safety deposit box was at First National Bank downtown. And Lily was locked in a psychiatric facility with no phone, no internet, and no way to contact anyone. Unless... Lily sat up in bed, her mind suddenly sharp and focused. Dr. Chen had said the independent evaluation would take a few days to arrange, which meant Lily had a narrow window to figure something out. She thought about the intake nurse's words. How you behave during your stay will determine how quickly you leave. Marcus wanted Lily to seem unstable. Wanted her to fight, to protest, to prove his lies about her mental state. So Lily would do the opposite. She'd be perfect, calm, cooperative, improving rapidly. And while everyone was watching her play the model patient, she'd find a way to get word to the one person who might actually believe her. The one person Marcus had probably forgotten about in his rush to steal everything Lily owned. Her grandmother's estate attorney, Patricia Hollis. If Lily could somehow contact Patricia, if she could explain what was happening, maybe, just maybe, there was a way out of this nightmare. But first, she had to survive tomorrow's visit from Marcus, because he'd be bringing those power of attorney papers. And if Lily signed them, game over. If she didn't, Marcus would find another way to punish her. Another way to tighten his control. Lily closed her eyes and thought of Emma's face. Emma's laugh. Emma's little hand in hers. She'd get through this. She had to, because her daughter needed her. And Marcus Morrison was about to learn that the woman he'd tried to destroy was a lot harder to break than he thought. Marcus returned the next morning with a leather briefcase, and that same false concern plastered across his face. You look better today, he said, settling into the chair across from Lily. More rested. The medication must be helping. Lily hadn't taken a single pill, but she smiled softly. I'm trying to get better. For Emma. That seemed to please him. His shoulders relaxed slightly. That's what I want to hear. Emma misses you. She asks about you every night. The words were meant to comfort, but they felt like knives. Emma asking for her mother while Marcus played the devoted single father. He opened the briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. These are the papers I mentioned. Power of attorney, temporary estate management authorization, and a medical consent form that gives me full decision-making authority during your treatment. Lily stared at the papers. Her entire future reduced to legal jargon and signature lines. What if I don't sign? Marcus's smile never wavered, but his eyes went cold. Then the doctors will decide you're not improving, that you're resistant to treatment. Your stay here gets extended. And Emma continues living with just me. He leaned forward. Or you could sign, show everyone you're being reasonable. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be home in a few weeks. Weeks, not days. Marcus was already planning to keep her locked up for weeks. Can I read through them first? Of course. He slid the papers across the table. Take your time. Lily picked up the first document. The language was dense, deliberately confusing. But one section caught her eye immediately. The power of attorney wasn't temporary at all. It was indefinite, revocable only by mutual consent. Which meant once Lily signed, Marcus could block any attempt she made to reclaim control. This says indefinite, Lily said carefully. You told me it was temporary. It's a standard legal term. Don't worry about the technical details. His tone had shifted, less patient, more condescending. You're not in a position to negotiate right now, Lily. There it was. The threat underneath the concern. Lily set the papers down. I need to think about it. Marcus's jaw clenched. You don't have time to think. I need these signed today. Why the rush? Because your grandmother's estate attorney is asking questions. Patricia Hollis wants to verify that you're being properly represented. If I don't have legal authority to act on your behalf, she's going to freeze the assets until you're released. Which could take months. Patricia. The one person Marcus was worried about. Lily's mind raced. If Patricia was asking questions, that meant she suspected something was wrong. That meant there might be a window, a small one, to get word to her. I'd like to speak with Patricia myself, Lily said. Absolutely not. Marcus's mask slipped completely now. You're in no condition to make legal decisions. That's exactly why you're here. Then I'm in no condition to sign these papers either. The silence that followed was heavy and dangerous. Marcus stared at her with an expression Lily had never seen before, pure hatred barely contained beneath a thin veneer of civility. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and threatening. You're making a mistake. A big one. He gathered the unsigned papers, shoved them back into his briefcase, and stood. I'll give you 24 hours to reconsider. But Lily? He leaned down, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Every day you fight me is another day you don't see Emma. Think about that. He left without another word. That afternoon, during supervised recreation time in the facility's courtyard, Dr. Sarah Chun found Lily sitting alone on a bench. Your husband seemed upset when he left this morning. I didn't sign his papers. Dr. Chun sat down beside her, maintaining enough distance to look casual to any observers. Good, that gives us time. Time for what? I made some calls. Pulled some strings. Dr. Chen kept her voice low. Patricia Hollis, your grandmother's attorney? She's been trying to contact you for 3 days. Your husband blocked all her calls, claimed you were too unstable for legal consultations. Lily's heart started pounding. Can you get me in touch with her? Not directly. Your husband's medical proxy extends to all communication, decisions. But ... Dr. Chen pulled a small notepad from her pocket, scribbled something, and slipped it to Lily. This is Patricia's direct office number. And this is the extension for the nurse's station payphone that's rarely monitored between shift changes. 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. That phone is essentially unsupervised. Lily looked at the numbers, memorizing them immediately. Why are you helping me? Because I've seen this pattern before. Wealthy spouse, sudden psychiatric commitment, convenient medical proxy, assets at stake. Dr. Chan's expression was grim. 3 years ago, I testified in a case almost identical to yours. The husband had his wife committed, medicated her into compliance, drained her accounts, and by the time anyone realized what was happening, she'd been declared legally incompetent. What happened to her? She's still institutionalized. Different facility, permanent commitment. She lost everything: money, house, custody of her kids. Dr. Chun met Lily's eyes. I'm not letting that happen to you. That evening at exactly 7:30 p.m., Lily slipped out of her room. The hallways were quiet during shift change, just as Dr. Chen had promised. The payphone was located in a small alcove near the emergency exit. Lily's hands shook as she dialed Patricia's number. 2 rings. 3, then Patricia Hollis. Patricia, it's Lily Morrison. Please don't hang up. There was a pause. Lily, where are you calling from? I've been trying to reach you for days. I'm at Riverside Psychiatric Facility. Marcus had me committed. He's trying to get power of attorney over my grandmother's estate. And Patricia, he forged documents. He's lying about my mental state. Slow down. Patricia's voice was calm but urgent. Are you safe right now? For the moment. I have maybe 10 minutes before someone notices I'm gone. Okay. Listen carefully. I suspected something was wrong when Marcus started calling my office claiming you were too ill to manage your affairs. Your grandmother specifically included clauses in her will to prevent exactly this kind of situation. What kind of clauses? Eleanor was very clear. If anyone attempted to have you declared incompetent or gain control of the estate through medical proxy, the entire inheritance would be placed in an irrevocable trust managed by the firm until you personally, and I mean you, not a representative, came to my office to confirm your wishes. Lily's breath caught. Her grandmother had anticipated this. Somehow, Eleanor had known. Marcus doesn't know about that clause, does he? The will was read to both of you, but that specific section was in the addendum. Most people don't read the fine print. Patricia paused. Lily, I need you to do something. Can you get me proof that you're being held against your will? Medical records, admission documents, anything that shows inconsistencies in your commitment? How am I supposed to get those? I'm locked in here. Find someone on staff you trust, someone who has access to your file. Lily thought of Dr. Chen. I might know. Someone. Good. Get me documentation and I can file an emergency petition with the court. But I need evidence, Lily. Without it, it's just your word against your husband's, and right now, he has doctors and court orders backing him up. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Someone was coming. I have to go, Lily whispered. Wait, one more thing. Your husband made a significant withdrawal from your joint account 3 days ago. $50,000. Do you know anything about that? $50,000? 3 days ago. The day before Lily was committed. No. Where did the money go? I'm trying to trace it, but the footsteps were getting closer. I'll call you back. Lily hung up and hurried back toward her room, her mind racing. $50,000 withdrawn right before her commitment. That wasn't coincidence. That was payment. But for what? The next morning, Dr. Chen pulled Lily aside after breakfast. We have a problem. Your husband filed a motion to have you transferred to a long-term care facility. State-run, maximum security. He's claiming you're a danger to staff. That's insane. I haven't done anything. I know. But he's got a report from Dr. Foster stating that you've been hostile, non-compliant with medication, and verbally aggressive toward nurses. All lies. Lily had been the perfect patient. Unless, he bribed Dr. Foster, didn't he? That $50,000. It wasn't just for the commitment. It was for ongoing cooperation. Dr. Chen's expression confirmed Lily's suspicion. I can't prove it, but yes, I think so. Foster's been on staff for 6 years and suddenly she's driving a brand new Mercedes. Paid in cash. How long do I have before the transfer? The hearing is in 5 days. If the judge approves the motion, you'll be moved to Clearwater State Hospital. And Lily, once you're in state care, getting out becomes almost impossible. 5 days. Lily had 5 days to prove Marcus was lying. Patricia had 5 days to build a case, and Dr. Chen had 5 days to gather evidence. Can you get me copies of my admission records? The ones showing the forged signatures? I can try. But Foster controls access to patient files. If she catches me copying restricted documents, I'll lose my license. Then we need another plan. That night, during the evening medication round, Lily pretended to take her pills as usual. But this time she watched carefully as the nurse, a young woman named Kelly, logged the dosages into the computer system. Kelly was new. Nervous. She'd made mistakes before, left her login screen active while stepping away to help another patient. Lily waited until Kelly's attention was diverted, then glanced at the computer screen. The patient database was open, her own file visible. There, in plain text, were notes from Dr. Foster's evaluation. But something was wrong with the timestamps. The evaluation report was dated 2 days before Lily's admission. 2 days before Marcus had allegedly brought her in for emergency psychiatric care, which meant the report had been written before Lily even arrived. Dr. Foster had created a diagnosis without ever meeting her patient. That was the proof Patricia needed. Lily memorized the date and timestamps, committed every detail to memory. The next day, during her session with Dr. Chen, Lily recited everything she'd seen. Foster's evaluation was backdated. She wrote that report before I was even admitted. That's fraud. That's proof Marcus paid her to rubber stamp his commitment order. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. If I can get those files entered into evidence, that alone would be grounds to overturn your commitment. Can you access them? Not without raising red flags. But ... Dr. Chen pulled out her phone, shielded it from view. There's a medical licensing board investigation portal. Anonymous reporting system for suspected fraud or malpractice. If someone were to submit a formal complaint against Dr. Foster with specific details about the backdated evaluation, the board would be required to investigate. And during an investigation, all relevant patient files would be subpoenaed. Lily understood immediately. You can't file the complaint. But I can. You'd need internet access. Which you don't have. Kelly leaves her computer unlocked sometimes. Dr. Chun studied her carefully. You're taking a huge risk. If you get caught accessing unauthorized systems, then I'll be exactly where I already am. Locked up and fighting for my freedom. Lily leaned forward. Marcus thinks he's won. He thinks I'm broken. He has no idea what's coming. That night, Lily waited until Kelly's shift. Waited until the young nurse got distracted by a patient emergency 3 rooms down. The computer was unlocked, the browser open. Lily's fingers flew across the keyboard. She navigated to the medical licensing board website, found the complaint portal and typed out every detail of the backdated evaluation. The forged signatures, the suspicious $50,000 payment, Dr. Foster's new Mercedes. She hit submit and cleared the browser history just as Kelly returned. Oh, Mrs. Morrison. Do you need something? Just couldn't sleep. Thought I'd walk around a bit. Kelly smiled sympathetically. I'll get you some more milk. The complaint would take days to process, maybe weeks. But it was started. The investigation was in motion. Meanwhile, Marcus was getting impatient. He showed up for another visit, this time bringing Emma. Lily's heart shattered the moment she saw her daughter. Emma looked smaller somehow, her blonde curls messy, her favorite dress wrinkled and stained. She clutched a stuffed rabbit that Lily had never seen before. Mommy? Emma's voice was so small, so uncertain. Lily wanted to scoop her up, hold her, never let go. But the visitation rules were strict: no physical contact without staff supervision. Hi, baby girl, Lily said, tears already streaming down her face. Marcus stood behind Emma, one hand on her shoulder. Emma wanted to see you. I thought it might help you understand what's at stake. The threat was clear. Sign the papers or lose Emma forever. Emma looked up at Marcus. Can I hug Mommy? I don't know, sweetie. The doctors say Mommy's still very sick. Lily's hands clenched into fists beneath the table. He was using their daughter as a weapon. Mommy's getting better, Lily said, forcing her voice to stay calm. And Mommy's going to come home soon. I promise. Marcus's smile was cruel. We'll see about that. He bent down to Emma. Say goodbye to Mommy now. After they left, Lily sat in that visitation room and cried harder than she'd cried since this nightmare began. But underneath the tears was something Marcus hadn't counted on. Rage. Cold, calculated rage. And a recording device that Dr. Chen had slipped into Lily's pocket before the visit, capturing every word Marcus had said, every threat, every manipulation. The evidence was piling up. The complaint was filed. Patricia was building her case. And Marcus Morrison had no idea that the woman he'd buried alive was digging her way out. The medical licensing board moved faster than anyone expected. 48 hours after Lily filed the anonymous complaint, 2 investigators showed up at Riverside demanding access to patient files. Dr. Foster's carefully constructed fraud was about to collapse. Dr. Chen found Lily in the courtyard. The board is here. They're reviewing your admission records right now. Lily's pulse quickened. How long until they find the backdated evaluation? They already did. Foster's in her office being questioned. She looks terrified. Meanwhile, Patricia Hollis had filed an emergency petition with the county court. The hearing was scheduled for that afternoon, the same day Marcus had planned to transfer Lily to state custody. When Marcus arrived at the courthouse, confident and composed in his tailored suit, he had no idea what was waiting for him. The courtroom was smaller than Lily expected. Judge Catherine Reynolds presided. a stern woman in her 60s known for her low tolerance for legal manipulation. Marcus's attorney, a slick corporate lawyer named David Brennan, opened with the standard arguments. Your Honor, Mrs. Morrison presents a clear danger to herself and others. Her treating physician, Dr. Amanda Foster, has documented ongoing delusions, paranoid ideation, and resistance to treatment. We're requesting approval for transfer to a more secure facility where she can receive appropriate long-term care. Judge Reynolds turned to Patricia. Miss Hollis, you filed an emergency petition challenging Mrs. Morrison's commitment. What's your basis? Patricia stood, carrying a thick folder of documents. Your Honor, Mrs. Morrison's commitment was obtained through fraud. We have evidence that her admission evaluation was backdated, that her husband paid Dr. Foster $50,000 in cash to provide false testimony, and that Mr. Morrison has been systematically manipulating the legal system to gain control of his wife's $8 million inheritance. Brennan jumped to his feet. These are serious accusations without foundation. I have foundation. Patricia opened the folder. First, bank records showing Mr. Morrison withdrew $50,000 from a joint account the day before Mrs. Morrison's commitment. Second, purchase records showing Dr. Foster bought a Mercedes-Benz with cash the following day. Third, time-stamped computer logs from Riverside Psychiatric proving Dr. Foster's evaluation report was created 48 hours before Mrs. Morrison was even admitted. The courtroom went silent. Judge Reynolds leaned forward. You're telling me a licensed psychiatrist wrote a diagnosis before meeting the patient? Yes, Your Honor. We're also alleging that Mr. Morrison forged his wife's signature on multiple commitment documents. Brennan was scrambling now. Your Honor, these claims are... I'd like to hear from Mrs. Morrison herself. The judge interrupted. Bailiff, have her brought in. Lily was escorted into the courtroom 30 minutes later, still wearing facility-issued clothing. She looked directly at Marcus as she walked past him. His face had gone pale, but he maintained his composure. For now, Judge Reynolds addressed Lily directly. Mrs. Morrison, do you understand why you're here? Yes, Your Honor. My husband had me falsely committed to steal my inheritance. That's a serious accusation. Can you provide any evidence to support it? Lily glanced at Patricia, who nodded encouragement. Your Honor, 3 days before I was committed, I inherited $8 million from my grandmother. The will specifically stated that my husband could not access those funds unless I was declared mentally incompetent. Within 48 hours of that reading, my husband began a campaign to have me institutionalized. Your Honor, Brennan interjected. Mrs. Morrison has a documented history of paranoid delusions, documented by a psychiatrist, who hadn't actually met her yet, Judge Reynolds said coldly. Continue, Mrs. Morrison. My husband forged my signature on the commitment papers. He bribed Dr. Foster to create a false diagnosis. He used a kitchen accident, a cut that required stitches, and claimed it was a suicide attempt. He's blocked all my communications, isolated me from legal counsel, and threatened to permanently remove my daughter from my custody if I didn't sign over power of attorney. Marcus stood up, his voice tight with controlled anger. Your Honor, my wife is clearly unwell. These delusions are exactly why she needs treatment. Mr. Morrison, sit down. The judge's tone left no room for argument. Miss Hollis, you mentioned a recording? Patricia pulled out a small digital recorder. Your Honor, Dr. Sarah Chun, a staff psychiatrist at Riverside, provided Mrs. Morrison with this device. It captured Mr. Morrison's visit 3 days ago. She pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the courtroom, crystal clear. Every day you fight me is another day you don't see Emma. Think about that. And earlier in the recording, you're not in a position to negotiate right now, Lily. I need these signed today. You're making a mistake. A big one. The judge's expression darkened. That sounds like coercion to me. Brennan was sweating now. Your Honor, this recording was obtained without my client's knowledge, in a psychiatric facility where patients are routinely monitored and recorded. I think your client knew exactly what environment he was in. Judge Reynolds turned to Marcus. Mr. Morrison, did you or did you not make a $50,000 cash withdrawal the day before your wife's commitment? Marcus shifted in his seat. I did, but it was for business expenses. Business expenses that coincidentally match the exact amount Dr. Foster spent on a luxury vehicle the next day. That's circumstantial. And the forged signatures? The judge held up the admission documents. Ms. Hollis has provided a handwriting analysis from a certified forensic expert. According to this report, the signature on these commitment forms doesn't match Mrs. Morrison's verified signature on file with her bank, her grandmother's estate, or any legal document she's signed in the past 5 years. The walls were closing in. Marcus's lawyer was frantically whispering to him. But Marcus had gone completely still, realizing for the first time that this wasn't going according to plan. Judge Reynolds continued. I'm also looking at medical records from the emergency room visit for Mrs. Morrison's hand injury. The attending physician's notes clearly state accidental laceration while preparing food. There's no mention of suicidal ideation, no psychiatric evaluation, nothing that would suggest this was a self-harm incident. Your Honor, Patricia said, we'd also like to enter into evidence a formal complaint filed with the State Medical Licensing Board against Dr. Amanda Foster. As of this morning, Dr. Foster's medical license has been suspended pending investigation into fraudulent practices. Marcus's face went from pale to ashen. The judge sat back in her chair, her decision already made. Here's what's going to happen. Mrs. Morrison's commitment is hereby overturned effective immediately. Mr. Morrison's medical power of attorney is revoked. Temporary custody of the minor child, Emma Morrison, is restored to Mrs. Morrison pending a full custody hearing. Your Honor, Brennan tried one last time. I'm not finished. Judge Reynolds' voice was ice. I'm also referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. Fraud, forgery, attempted theft, witness tampering Mr. Morrison. You're looking at serious felony counts. Marcus finally broke. She's lying. All of this is she's sick. She needs help. No, Mr. Morrison, you need help. Legal help. Because when the day finishes investigating, you're going to need the best attorney money can buy. The judge banged her gavel. Mrs. Morrison is released immediately. This hearing is adjourned. The courtroom erupted. Reporters who'd been tipped off by Patricia rushed forward. Camera flashes went off. Marcus stood frozen as bailiffs approached him, not to escort him out, but to inform him he was under investigation. Patricia pulled Lily aside. We need to get you out of here. The press is going to be all over this. But Lily stopped, turned back to face Marcus one last time. He looked destroyed. The carefully constructed mask had shattered completely. His expensive suit suddenly looked like a costume. His perfect hair was disheveled. His eyes held the dawning realization that he'd lost everything. You should have just loved me, Lily said quietly. I would have given you the world. But you wanted to steal it instead. Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Lily walked out of that courtroom, a free woman. The media storm that followed was intense. Husband attempts to steal wife's inheritance through psychiatric fraud dominated local news. Marcus's face was plastered across every channel, every website. Dr. Foster was arrested 2 days later. The medical board's investigation had uncovered 3 other cases where she provided fraudulent evaluations for financial compensation. She was facing criminal charges and the permanent revocation of her medical license. Marcus's assets were frozen pending the criminal investigation. His bank accounts, his car, the house, everything was locked down. He moved out and into a cheap motel, unable to afford the lifestyle he'd been trying to steal. The district attorney moved quickly. Within a week, formal charges were filed: conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, witness tampering, and attempted theft. Marcus was looking at 15 to 20 years in prison. His high-powered attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal, but Patricia made sure the DA knew exactly how calculated this scheme had been, how Marcus had planned it for months, how he'd used his own daughter as leverage, how he'd tried to lock his wife in a psychiatric facility for years while he drained her inheritance. No plea deal was offered. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Marcus showed up looking like a shell of his former self-cheap suit, dark circles under his eyes, the weight of his choices crushing him visibly. Lily attended, sitting in the front row with Emma beside her. Her daughter held her hand tightly, no longer confused about why mommy had been gone, but understanding that daddy had done something very, very wrong. When Marcus's eyes met Lily's across the courtroom, she saw something she'd never expected to see. Genuine fear. He was finally understanding what she'd known all along. That greed destroys everything it touches. That manipulation has consequences. That the woman he'd underestimated and tried to bury had risen up and destroyed him instead. After the hearing, as Lily walked out with Emma and Patricia, reporters surrounded them. Mrs. Morrison, what do you want to say to women who might be in similar situations? Lily paused, thought carefully, then spoke directly into the cameras. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Document everything. Find people who believe you. And never, ever let anyone convince you that you're crazy for protecting yourself and your children. She held Emma's hand tighter. My husband tried to erase me. He tried to take my freedom, my daughter, my future. He almost succeeded, but he made one critical mistake. What was that? A reporter called out. Lily smiled. He underestimated how far a mother will go to protect her child. If you're watching this and thinking about how to protect yourself from someone who sees you as nothing more than a dollar sign, don't forget to subscribe because the final chapter of how I rebuilt everything he tried to destroy is something you won't want to miss. Marcus Morrison's trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, forged documents, financial records, testimony from Dr. Chen. The recordings, everything. His defense tried to paint him as a concerned husband who'd made poor choices out of desperation. My client was overwhelmed by his wife's sudden wealth. He panicked. He made mistakes. The jury didn't buy it. After 4 hours of deliberation, they returned with their verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 18 years in federal prison. No parole eligibility for at least 12. When the sentence was read, Marcus finally broke down completely. He sobbed in the courtroom, begging for mercy, claiming he'd only wanted to provide for his family. Lily watched from the gallery with zero sympathy. This was the same man who'd threatened to keep her locked away for years. The same man who'd used their daughter as blackmail. The same man who'd forged legal documents and bribed doctors to steal her inheritance. He deserved every single year. But the criminal sentence wasn't the end of Marcus's destruction. The civil penalties were even worse. Patricia filed a lawsuit on Lily's behalf: emotional distress, fraud, attempted theft, wrongful commitment. The damages totaled $12 million. The original $8 million inheritance plus $4 million in punitive damages. Marcus had no money to pay. His assets were seized and auctioned off. The house they'd lived in together, the car he'd loved so much, his designer suits, his golf clubs, everything went to pay Lily's judgment. It still wasn't enough to cover the full amount, which meant Marcus would spend the rest of his life with garnished wages and destroyed credit, paying back a debt he could never escape. Meanwhile, Lily was rebuilding. The first thing she did was buy a new home, a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood with excellent schools. Emma had her own room, painted lavender with stars on the ceiling, exactly how she'd always wanted. The second thing Lily did was establish the Eleanor Whitmore Foundation, named after her grandmother. The foundation provided legal assistance and advocacy for women targeted by financial abuse, coercive control, and fraudulent commitments. Within 6 months, the foundation had helped 43 women escape situations similar to Lily's. Women whose husbands had tried to have them declared incompetent. Women who'd been gaslit, manipulated, and nearly destroyed by the people who claimed to love them. Lily became the public face of the foundation, speaking at conferences and legal seminars about recognizing the warning signs of financial abuse. It starts small, she'd tell audiences. A joint bank account you're not allowed to access. Credit cards in your name that you didn't open. Legal documents you're pressured to sign without reading. And if you question it, you're told you're paranoid, anxious, unstable. Her talks went viral. Major news networks interviewed her. She appeared on national television, telling her story to millions of viewers. And every time she spoke, she made sure to mention Dr. Sarah Chen, the psychiatrist who'd risked her career to help. Lily proved the truth. Dr. Chun had been promoted to Director of Patient Advocacy at Riverside after Dr. Foster's arrest. She'd completely overhauled their commitment protocols, implementing mandatory secondary evaluations and stricter oversight of medical proxy authorizations. Lily saved herself, Doctor, Chun said in interviews. I just gave her the tools she needed. Her intelligence, her courage, her refusal to give up, that's what defeated Marcus Morrison. Emma thrived in their new life. The trauma of her father's betrayal had been difficult, but therapy helped. A good child psychologist worked with her weekly, helping her understand that what happened wasn't her fault. Emma rarely asked about Marcus. When she did, Lily answered honestly. Daddy made very bad choices. He hurt people, and now he's being held accountable. Emma seemed to accept that. She was young enough that her strongest memories would be of her life after the house with the lavender room, the foundation where Mommy helped other women, the sense of safety and stability that had been missing before. On the 1-year anniversary of Lily's release from Riverside, Patricia threw a celebration at her law office. Survivors from the foundation attended, along with Dr. Chun, journalists who'd covered the story, and even Judge Reynolds, who'd become an advocate for reforming psychiatric commitment laws. Patricia raised a glass to Lily Morrison, who proved that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy, it's becoming everything they tried to prevent you from being. Everyone drank to that. Later that evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Lily sat in her home office reviewing foundation applications. A woman in Chicago needed help escaping a husband who'd forged her name on bankruptcy documents. A mother in Atlanta was fighting a fraudulent incompetency declaration. A college student in Seattle had discovered her boyfriend had been systematically stealing her identity. Every story made Lily's blood boil. But every story also reminded her why this work mattered. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. Marcus had been transferred to a maximum security facility after getting into a fight with another inmate. He'd been placed in solitary confinement. Lily deleted the notification without reading further. Marcus was no longer her concern. He was the past, a cautionary tale. A reminder of what happens when greed outweighs humanity. She opened her laptop and started drafting next quarter's foundation goals. They needed to expand to 3 more states. Hire 2 additional attorneys. Launch a 24-hour hotline for women in crisis. The inheritance her grandmother had left her, the money Marcus had tried so desperately to steal, was now funding the exact kind of legacy Eleanor would have loved. Protecting women. Fighting corruption. Ensuring that no one else would suffer what Lily had endured. 6 months later, Lily received word that Marcus had filed for divorce from prison. He wanted to cut all legal ties, hoping it might help his appeal. Lily signed the papers without hesitation. She'd already moved on in every way that mattered. The divorce was finalized quickly. Marcus got nothing, no assets, no custody, no visitation rights. The judge had seen the full record of his crimes, and ruled that contact with Emma would be detrimental to the child's well-being. Marcus sent one letter after the divorce was final. Lily almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity got the better of her. The letter was short, handwritten on prison stationery. Lily, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I need you to know that I'm sorry, not for getting caught, for what I did, for what I tried to do. You deserved better. Emma deserved better. I destroyed my own life because I was too selfish to appreciate what I had. I hope someday you can find peace. Lily read it once, then fed it through the shredder. Marcus's apology meant nothing. Words were cheap, especially from a man who'd proven he'd say anything to get what he wanted. What mattered was action. Consequences. Justice. And on that front, Lily had won completely. 2 years after the trial, the foundation had helped over 200 women. Lily had published a book, The Quiet Theft, Recognizing and Escaping Financial Abuse, that became a New York Times bestseller. She'd been invited to testify before Congress about reforming psychiatric commitment laws. Her advocacy had led to new legislation in 4 states requiring mandatory third-party verification before anyone could be involuntarily committed based on a spouse's request. Emma was 7 now, happy, healthy, thriving in school. She'd started telling people her mommy was a superhero who helped protect other mommies. And in a way, Lily supposed that's exactly what she'd become. Not because she'd sought revenge. Not because she'd destroyed Marcus out of spite, but because she'd taken the worst thing that ever happened to her and transformed it into something that helped others. One evening, while tucking Emma into bed, her daughter asked, "Mommy, are you happy now?" Lily thought about it. Really thought about it. 2 years ago, she'd been locked in a psychiatric facility, her freedom stolen, her daughter taken from her, her entire future threatened by a man who'd promised to love her. Now she was free, successful, making a real difference in the world, raising her daughter in safety and peace. "Yes, baby," Lily said, kissing Emma's forehead. "I'm very happy." "Good," Emma said sleepily. "You deserve to be happy." After Emma fell asleep, Lily stood in the doorway of that lavender bedroom with the stars on the ceiling and thought about Marcus in his prison cell. He'd tried to erase her, tried to steal her inheritance, tried to take her daughter, tried to lock her away forever. But the woman he'd tried to destroy had become stronger, wiser, and more successful than she'd ever been before his betrayal. Marcus had lost everything: his freedom, his money, his daughter, his reputation, his future. Lily had gained everything: her voice, her purpose, her power, her peace. The best revenge, it turned out, wasn't making Marcus suffer. He'd done that to himself. The best revenge was proving that his worst actions couldn't break her, that she could rise from the ashes of his betrayal and build something beautiful. Something that would outlast his prison sentence. Something that would help thousands of women long after Marcus Morrison was forgotten. Eleanor Whitmore had once told Lily, "True strength isn't about how hard you can hit back. It's about how beautifully you can rebuild after someone tries to destroy you." Lily understood that now. She walked to her home office and opened her email. 3 new requests for help. 3 more women who needed someone to believe them, to fight for them, to show them they weren't crazy for protecting themselves. Lily started typing responses. Because this was her life now. Not as Marcus Morrison's victim. Not as a woman who'd been betrayed and nearly destroyed. But as Lily Morrison, survivor, advocate. Proof that the people who try to bury you never account for the possibility that you might grow roots instead. Marcus had tried to sell their daughter's future to pay for his greed. He'd tried to steal Lily's inheritance, her freedom, her sanity. But Lily had been recording everything. Documenting everything. Building her case while he thought he'd already won. And in the end, the only person who got buried was the man who dug the grave. Lily closed her laptop, turned off the lights, and went to bed in her own house, in her own life, with her daughter sleeping safely down the hall. Free. Successful. Victorious. Exactly as it should be. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think twice about the red flags in your own life, subscribe to this channel, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is share the stories that remind us we're stronger than the people who try to break us.